Hey guys, AniMind here and welcome back to another video. Before we get started with the video, I am really sorry I did not upload for like a month, I think. Almost a month, a week or 2 weeks. I've just been really busy with some personal stuff and I'll try and upload more, but I might still be a little bit lower. I might upload still a bit less. But anyway, I had some time to think. I've drawn quite a lot. 3 images, which isn't that much, but it's still kinda a lot, if you know what I mean. And these 3 images are going to be part of a 3-part series because they all have to do with one thing. And I'm going to talk, of course, about my storyline in this 3-part series, but not exactly about my storyline, the storyline itself, just more about lure, of course, because the storyline I still haven't figured out all the nitbits, and I'm figuring out more lure, because I think it's lure. Once again, I can't pronounce these words right, but anyway, so I'll try my best to explain the lure of my storyline, and yeah, so this is going to be because I wanted to figure out all the lure in my storyline because before I start creating the story too much, because then I have a lot of tools to work with, a lot of plot devices, as they call it, to influence the story, and so I don't create a new thing that then contradicts everything that happens. So I don't want to start thinking about too many things and then suddenly I figure this thing out that's really cool, but it turns out that that contradicts this thing. For example, time travel. If you introduce time travel into any story, then there will always be paradoxes. Time travel is one of those really irritating things that story writers, I personally think, I personally just try to stay away from time travel in my storylines and stuff like that, because it usually doesn't end up well. Yeah, and anyway, so let's get right into the video. So there are 4 main elements, physical elements, as I've talked about before. These elements, just for a refresher, if you haven't seen my previous videos about my storyline, please check them out if you haven't, are the first, there is the fire element, the strongest, because it's the ability to control energy itself, and energy itself is much more powerful than other things. Then there is the second strongest, which is earth, which is able to absorb, trap, release, deflect, and also contain energy in different ways. Stone is basically all physical, hard, kind of rocky stuff, like ores, metals, anything that comes from the earth, basically. And yeah, so stone is, so these are the 2 main elements. As the universe began, they were the dominant elements, of course, because the universe started with stars, which is hydrogen, which is fusing with helium, which creates a lot of fusion energy, which is obviously fire, if it had to be categorized in any of the 4. And then there were planets forming from nebula and nebulae. Yeah, I'm just going to call them nebula because I know that, yeah, the plural version of space words is really weird. But anyway, and these planets existed out of mostly Earth-like kind of materials, like, and by Earth I don't mean like Earth, the planet, but I mean like soil, iron, rock, and stuff like that. That's what Earth is categorized as in the spirit world thing. But anyway, and then there are the other 2 spirits, which are air and water. And those are the 2 a bit more rare elements. Air, of course, isn't that rare, but air is here we actually start. Here it actually shows the 4 different forms of matter, if you think about it, because there's water and air, liquids and gases. Then there's fire, which is obviously a plasma. Plasmas are like gases, they're just ionized, which means they don't have their electrons with them, so they have more energy. And then there is earth, which is solids, and the solids are one of the most common occurrences of matter there is. After that would be, well, plasma is the most common because stars are massive and everywhere. Then it would be gases, because stars technically exist out of gas, but they are made plasma because of the heat. But there are lots of gas giants, and they exist mostly out of gas which turn liquid to the core. But yeah, this isn't really a science lesson, but the order of how common these elements are the order of how powerful they are. So water is last, air is second, air is third, earth is first, earth is second, and plasma is first. So fire, so yeah, you can work that out by combining them with the main elements. And these elements can combine to create other smaller categories, and they are embodied by spirits. These spirits are basically celestial beings. They're like gods, but they're not really gods, I'd say, because they don't really. All they do is they created the universe and they keep it in check. They don't really have any real followers. They're not powered by any weird human thing. But yeah, and then there are the 4 anti-elements. And guess what? Anti-elements are bad, of course. They're evil. And anti-elements exist out of the 4 main parts of life. Yeah. Life is in the storyline. Well, in real life, I'm not saying that life is bad, but if you were a god-like being, a celestial-like being, and you created planets and massive, beautiful ecosystems full of matter and stuff like that, then a small little creature that absorbs everything, turns it into useless poop, which, well, most of the stuff that life gives away is useless, then you wouldn't really like life. You'd think of it as a parasite, which life is. All life is technically a parasite. It doesn't mean we're bad. Parasites can be good. I'm not saying all life is bad. I'm not some kind of Satanist. I think it's Satanist or whatever. It's just in the storyline, life was created to destroy the 4 main elements. And yeah, so. And I just want to remind you before I get on with the video, this is not like a real religion. It's just a storyline, and these stuff, I don't really believe these stuff. You can, if you can feel free to believe it if you really want to and you're really that interested in having something to believe in. But anyway, let's get on. So these elements are the life elements were created, well, they're symbolized by gods. And let's look at the symbols quickly. Clovers are life itself, the first element. The spades is the body of life. It is masculinity mostly, not masculinity as male, more masculinity as having muscles, if you know what I mean, because that's what masculinity, I believe, means. Then the diamonds, they are the mind, being smart, intelligence, logic. And then hearts is actually wasn't actually created for life. It was created against life by death herself. Death symbolizes the soul, and she's kind of an in-between thing, because if you're a soul, you're dead, but you still are connected to the living, but you're not really alive, and you're not really a parasite. You give more than you take, so it's like a complicated thing. But yeah, so this was created by the 4 elements to go against the 4 anti-elements and absorb their energy. And the heart is emotions, passion, and this all goes against life's meaning, to nurture, to give, to keep stuff how they are. But anyway, sorry, the video's time is up. I'll talk more about it in my second part. Please leave a like. I hope you enjoyed the videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you and goodbye. Bye.